विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतम् पश्यन् आत्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयम् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये दूर्वादलद्युतितनुं तरुणाब्जनेत्रम् हेमाम्बरं वरविभूषणभूषिताङ्गम् कन्दर्पकोटिकमनीयकिशोरमूर्तिं पूर्तिं मनोरथभुवां भज जानकीशम्. All right. So let me share my screen now. Okay. So today we are going to begin with a very important part of the Rāmacaritamānasa, which is the explanation or the meta framework which Goswamiji builds for us of what the Manas itself is. Yeah. So these are 8 Doha Chaupai blocks. So we've seen that the Nam Vandana was a few blocks, the Dham Vandana was a few blocks. Then we talked about his own, will I be able to do it, will I not be able to do it part, which was 3 or 4 Doha blocks. In the initial Vandana was also 5 Doha blocks. Then we had, the Nam Vandana was 8 Doha blocks, 8 or 9. And now we have this 8 Doha block in which Goswamiji unfolds what the Manas is. Now, Goswamiji is called the king of Rupaka. Rupaka is a metaphor. And this is a rolling metaphor, one after the other, that just goes on and on and on. And there's a high chance that we lose track of what's going on because, the metaphors just keep flowing. So what I'm going to do is I'll start documenting the metaphors so that we have a reference to it every time we move ahead. It might appear slightly boring initially as to why we are doing it. But once we start moving ahead, I think that table that we are going to build as we go on, even I'm not clear how the table, what form it will take, we'll try. But it is important to continuously have that reference point to really understand the might of the metaphor that Goswamiji is building over here. So it's done in 8 Doha Chaupai blocks, what the Manas is for Goswamiji. There are many things to say about this. Books have been written only on these 8 Doha Chaupai blocks. We'll talk about that as we do the unfolding, but of course we have to limit it in whatever time we have. So I think we had done till Doha Chaupai block 35, and we'll now begin with Doha Chaupai block 36. Normally the Doha number 35 is taken to be part of this meta Manas definition, what the Manas means for Goswamiji. So we will recite that also today. We normally begin with the Chaupai, but we'll begin with the Doha today. Okay. जसमानस जेहि विधि भयउ जग प्रचार जेहि हेतु अब सोई कहूँ प्रसंग सब सुमिरि उमा वृष केतु शंभु प्रसाद सुमति हिय हुलसी रामचरितमानस कवि तुलसी करई मनोहर मति अनुहारी सुजन सुचित सुनी लेहु सुधारी सुमति भूमि थल हृदय अगाधु वेद पुराण उदधि घन साधु बरस ही राम सुजस बरबारी मधुर मनोहर मंगलकारी लीला सगुन जो कहीं बखानी सोई स्वच्छता करई मलहानी प्रेम भगति जो बरनि न जाई सोई मधुरता सुशीतलताई सो जल सुकृत सालिहित होई राम भगत जन जीवन सोई मेधा महिगत सोजल पावन सकिल श्रवण मग चले सुहावन भरे सुमानस सुथल थिराना सुखद सीत रुचि चारुचिराना सुठी सुंदर संवाद बर बिरचे बुद्धि विचारी तेहि एहि पावन सुभग सर घाट मनोहर चारी. Okay, so this is the description of that meta manas, what the manas is to Goswamiji. Now, there was a book about India written in the 1920s called Mother India by Catherine Mayo. And she criticized India very heavily over there. You know, aisa hai, vaisa hai, around cleanliness, around the social system that we have, around the gender divide, etc. She's writing in the 20s. So, I mean, gender divide was much higher everywhere in the world, forget India. And then, you know, some reporter put the mic into Gandhiji's mouth and asked him, so what do you have to say on Catherine Mayo's book? And he said, it's a gutter inspector's report. So, now I think there is a lot of criticism done on the Manas, saying वो पुराना है, ये है, वो है, you know, it's संकुचित वृत्ति का है, etc. So all these critiques remind me of what Gandhiji said about Catherine Mayo's book. You know, it's a gutter inspector's report. अब यहाँ पे गोस्वामी जी is giving us a दृष्टि कि उनके मन में मानस को किस तरीके से देखा जाए. And if we approach the Manas with the drishti that Goswami ji is giving us in this Doha Chopai block set of 8, I think it will be a joy ride. You know, it will be a mental, spiritual cleanse that will work. So I just thought of that, you know, Catherine Mayo and Gandhiji response when I read about the criticism around the Tulsi Manas that happens every now and then. But the Manas still, you know, stays. Okay, so he's talking of the geography of India over here in this Doha Chopai block set. So we'll quickly look at a map of India or South Asia and see what geography that is Goswamiji referring to. So I'll just quickly switch my window and bring up the presentation. Okay. So this is the geography that Goswamiji is referring to. Now you can see that this is a relief map of northeastern India. And I don't know whether you can see my mouse pointer or we have a pointer over here itself. Yeah. So you can see over here, there is a little lake that is the Mansarovar. On the left-hand side of the Mansarovar is another lake, which is called the Rakshastal, the lake of the demons or the Ravantal. So within the physical geography of India, you have a lake, which is the Mansarovar. And then, of course, you have the Kailash Parvat behind it, on which Shivji is said to be eternally residing. Now, why is this particular geography so important to the Indian subcontinent? Because if you draw, you know, a square of maybe 50 to 60 miles around the Manas, you have the eastern flowing Brahmaputra, you have the western flowing Indus, and you have the southern flowing Ganga, Jamuna, Ghagra or Sharayu, all starting from, you know, 50 square miles of these two lakes, which is why this becomes literally the feeder of the Indian belly. You know, if this lake, this geography, and if these east, west, and south flowing rivers were not there, the entire subcontinent would have gone hungry. It is these rivers that drain our fertile plains. It is these rivers that give us food. It is on the banks of these rivers that great cultures are established, which is why this geography becomes so potent. And in these 8 Doha Chaupai sets, we are going to begin with the Manas. It is the Rāmacaritamānasa. Traverse along this geography, see what all rivers are there, what all ghats are there. He'll be talking about the Gomati, the many rivers that come over here, the Ganga, the Jamuna, the Saraswati. He'll be finally going to the confluence of the rivers and into the ocean. So the Brahmaputra, the Ganga, Jamuna, I mean, their drainage is of course in the Bay of Bengal, and the drainage of the Indus is in the Arabian Sea, as we all know. Now this massive river that you see over here is often mistaken to be the Ganga, but this is actually the Sharayu or the Ghagra. The Ganga ji is this line that you see coming over here, which joins into the Ghagra just after Chhapra before Patna, So after this confluence is Patna in Bihar. And then this river that you see coming from here, it's not very visible on the map, but just follow the red dot. This is the Jamuna. And here you have Prayagraj at their confluence. Here you have Varanasi. And then the river flows on finally through Bihar and opens up into the mouth of the Bay of Bengal. So that's the geography that will be referenced when we go through these 8 Doha Chaupai blocks. I just wanted to bring it up before we start unfolding that section. Okay, so back to our text now. Okay. Sambhu Prasada Sumati Hiya Hulasi Rāmacaritamānasa Kabi Tulasi. So last time we saw the imprint, he has given an imprint. When was it published? What was the day? What was the place, etc. Now, after the imprint, he's now talking about the authorship. We also said that this is an open copyright. He never claimed authorship, and that's exactly what he's now trying to tell us. Sambhu Prasada Sumati Hiya Hulasi. Here is Hriday Mein. Hulasi we saw was the name of his mother. So this is again a double-layered Ardhali. He's saying that because of the grace of Shiva and because his mother's blessings resided in his heart, he came to have good mati, sumati. This it could also mean that there were hulsi is waves, tarang. So it could also mean that in his heart, waves of sumati started arising because of the grace of Shiva. So शिवजी के प्रसाद के कारण उनके हृदय में सुमति की तरंग उठने लगी या सुमति की तरंगे उठने लगी. रामचरितमानस कवि तुलसी, और वो तरंग का स्वरूप भूत जो पुस्तक है, that is Rāmacaritamānasa. So he's saying that I am not the author of this. This was basically in the heart of Shiva. We saw that last time. It is his grace that showered on me, and because of that, Tyar Hriday se He Hriday. From that heart to my heart it came, and hence because he has the Rāmacaritamānasa, whatever was expressed in my heart is also the Rāmacaritamānasa, and Kabi Tulsidas bane because I got it into bhasha. So Rāmacaritamānasa Kabi Tulasi, Karai Manohara Mati Anuhari, and then he's saying I am trying to embellish it, make it beautiful as my intelligence allows me. Sujana Suchita Suni Lehu Sudhari. All the Sajjanas, please have a clear chitta, and wherever you think that this embellishment is not right, there is something that is not fitting in. There is nothing that happens like this in the Manas. There is not a single word, forget a word, a letter, where you feel this has to be different. At least I have not come across that place where you think that he's saying too much or too little, or he could have said it differently. But he's still saying, you as listeners, receptors of this Manas, correct it as and when you deem it to be fit. Lehu Sudhari. Keep on correcting it if you find something that is going wrong. So that's the opening of this 8 Doha Chaupai block set. Sumati Bhumi Thala Hridaya Agadhu. Now he starts expanding into the geography. Now, to have a lake, you need to have a catchment area, as they say. When you build an artificial dam, you kind of do a topographical research, you see how the valleys are flowing, then you start saying, okay, this embankment will really give me a good catchment area, as they say. Even naturally, when you have natural lakes, there's a drainage, there's a catchment area, and then there's a lake. So he's saying that what is the earth, what is the catchment area? It is my Sumati. Sumati Bhumi, Thala Hridaya Agadhu. And then that cavity that is being formed naturally is the depths of my heart. So the catchment area is my Sumati, and the lake in which all these waters are going to flow is the depths of my heart. Hridaya Agadhu, it is depthless, it is infinite, because it has to catch the infinite story of Ram, which is to say that an expression of love is infinite, because that is where love resides, in the heart. So Sumati Bhumi, Thala Hridaya Agadhu, वेद पुराण उदधि घन साधु. अब ये रामचरितमानस का जो सरोवर है वो बहुत ऊंचे पहाड़ों पे है, इन द कैलाश पर्वत we saw. But what is the ocean? It is saying वेद और पुराण समुद्र है, लेकिन समुद्र का पानी तो खारा रहता है. उसमें मिठास आने के लिए उस पे ज्ञान वैराग्य चमकना चाहिए, और उससे मधुर पानी वो सूर्य के तेज से निकल के वर्षा होनी चाहिए. So he's saying that the ocean is the Vedas and the Puranas, the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. And Ghana Sadhu, the sadhus who through their meditation, penance, wisdom, love, compassion, thinking, they shine, their tapas shines on this ocean of the Vedas and Puranas, and it comes across as clouds. Ghana is the cloud, sadhu. So the sadhus are the clouds, the ocean is the Vedas and the Puranas. The catchment area on which this rain is going to shower is my Sumati, and the cavity, the lake which is going to be formed, that depth that I need to catch the waters is my heart. बरसहि राम सुजस बरबारी, and then उसका जो निचोड़ है ये समुद्र के पानी का, उसका निचोड़ बरसने वाला है. That shower is going to be राम सुजस. वो कथा जो है, that is going to be the shower. So the heavy rains, घन घमंड नभ गरजत घोरा, that heavy rain is going to be the shower of the Ram Katha, and my heart is going to catch that because the catchment area is of Sumati. So Barasahi Rama Sujasa Barabari, the beautiful, clean, sweet waters which are not khara of the ocean, are going to fall in my heart. Madhura Manohara Mangalakari. The water is sweet, the water is beautiful, and it is auspicious. And I'm going to try to catch that in this catchment area and store it in the manas of my heart and have a reflection of Shivji's manas in me. So that's how he begins mapping the metaphor. So, sorry, yeah, Preeti.
So does that also mean that, would you say the ocean there's a kharash to it? So therefore you have, you said, and those are the Ved and the Puranas. So is there therefore a certain kharash to that? Is that a reference that therefore it's difficult to understand, and therefore the sar is actually absorbed by the various rishis? Is that, should we see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, the Vedas and the Puranas is a huge corpus, and there are so many things which to our limited intellect appear contradictory. They are not if they are unfolded properly, which is what the sadhus do. They try and uska nichod nikal ke they shar. So even in the Gita, Tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanata. If there is water all around, then what importance is there of the ocean? The Bhagavad Gita also refers to that. So the Vedas are not to be looked upon as something that is not useful, because ultimately the sweet waters cannot be formed in the cloud if the ocean is not there.
True.
You need to have the ocean, but that ocean is so immense that to get the nichod of it, you need to have the tapas of the sadhus going through each and every line, reflecting on it and saying, okay, this is it. Which is why we say that the Ram Katha is the carrier of the Vedas. Whatever the Vedas say as Omkar, the Ramayana says as Ram. We saw also that mapping, right? Of the three avasthas, Omkar, Uma, and Ama. So that exactly is a reference to this, that it is an infinite ocean. It has to be heated by the tapas of the sadhus, और उसका निचोड़ हमें समझ में आए ऐसी भाषा में निकालने के लिए the katha is there. And that water, then it falls in this cavity of my heart, or this opening of my heart, because the catchment area is my Sumati. My approach is not that of Catherine Mayo, but my approach is that of a Bhakta. If that Sumati is there, only then it will do its work. So that's what he's saying over here. So Barasahi Rama Sujasa Barabari Madhura Manohara Mangalakari. So let's now start building the metaphor, because as I said, this will get, I wouldn't say it will get complicated, but it will get intense, and it's very important to have a continuous reference to what we are going to do over here. Okay, so I've tried to put it over here. So what is the entity now? Karai Manohara Mati Anuhari Sumati Bhumi Thala Hridaya Agadhu. So the entity is Bhumi, so catchment area. It maps to Sumati. I'm just making rough notes. I'll make it fair after the class. So Sumati Bhumi Thala Hridaya Agadhu. The lake is the heart. Then you have the ocean, which are the Vedas and the Puranas. Then you have the sun, which is the sadhus. Then that gets formed into clouds. Udadhi Ghana Sadhu. Sorry, there's no. That's basically the clouds that are the sadhus, and there's no mention of the tapas, but that's implicit. The tapas of the sadhus is the sun. Yeah, so far so good. Ghana sadhu. Barasahi Rama Sujasa Barabari. And then the rain is the glory. Glory of Shri Ram. Barasahi Ram Madhura Manohara Mangalakari. The water, sweet water, is sweet, auspicious, and well-wishing. Mangalakari. Okay. So so it's basically catchment area, lake, ocean, clouds, rain, sweet water. That's how the metaphor has evolved so far. I've copied the text over here, so I don't have to keep switching windows. This is the mool text, but anyhow. So Barasahi Rama Sujasa Barabari Madhura Manohara Mangalakari. Leela Saguna Jo Kahahi Bakhani Soi Swachhata Karai Malahani. Now, when the glories of the Ram in the fall are going to fall in the form of water, we are going to take those waters on us and are going to also start sprinkling it around, playing it around, as kids play in the rainwaters. That is the Leela, which we are going to talk of. So, that is the cleanliness. So, Swachhata is cleanliness. So, this water which is falling in the form of the Katha is going to cleanse us. And that is Leela Sagun. It's the Sagun Leela. There'll also be a reference to the Nirgun Leela. So Leela Saguna Jo Kahahi Bakhani Soi Swachhata Karai Malaharani. That's what it washes away mental dirt or the Shadripus. And this washes away physical dirt or dhul mitti. Okay. So this is how this metaphor, now this is just, we've not even completed one Doha Chaupai block. And we've already got 7 metaphors in place. And this is going to go for 8 Doha Chaupai blocks. So just see the magic that Goswamiji is building over here. So Barasahi Rama Sujasa Barabari Madhura Manohara Mangalakari. Leela Saguna Jo Kahahi Bakhani Soi Swachhata Karai Malahani. Prema Bhagati Jo Barani Na Jai Soi Madhurata Susita Latai. Now if I give you water from Pune, Pune is very close to the catchment area. Pune has been very lucky in that sense because it gets very clean, good water from the catchment area in the Western Ghats. So it has very sweet water. But if you start moving eastwards, if you go to Solapur or somewhere, the water turns hard. Now, if you see both these waters, they appear same. Even Bombay has relatively very good water quality. And then the other very blessed areas is in the north, of course. If you go to Dehradun and where you have these rivulets flowing, streams flowing, but that's very mineral rich water. It tastes different. The water over here is not that mineral rich, it's very sweet. If you go further east, the water turns hard. But can you see that water different? No. They all appear like water. I mean, if it's clean water, it is transparent, it looks the same. But when you taste it, you know the difference. So Madhurta is something that you cannot explain. The sweetness of water, you have to taste it to really be able to fathom what it is. So similarly, Prema Bhagati Jo Barani Na Jai, that once you listen to the Katha, once you fall in love with the Ramayana, that loving bhakti cannot be described. And how is that? It is Soi Madhurata Susitalata. It is like the sweetness of water, which can only be tasted but can never be described. So the sweetness of water is like the Prem Bhakti. And it's not just the Prem Bhakti of the Bhakt to the Bhagavan, it's also the love, indescribable love within Bharat or Ram, Kevat and Ram, Hanumanji and Ram, Vibhishan and Ram, Sita and Ram. So many pairs are there where the love between them is indescribable. It's just not the love of Sita and Ram. That's one angle of love. It's Dasya Bhakti, it's Mitra Bhakti. All kinds of bhaktis are there where the love is indescribable, just like the sweetness of water. You can taste it, you know that it's sweet when you drink it. But if you tell me, okay, then tell me what's the difference of the waters that you drink between, let's say, Dehradun, Pune and Solapur, you can't explain that. You'll say, पी के देख लो. इसीलिए we have a saying in Marathi, 12 गावचं पाणी पेला. He's drank the waters of 12 towns. So okay. So anyhow, so sweetness is prem. It is prem bhakti, and it is indescribable. Okay. And soi madhurata susitalatai, and it is also sital, it quietens you. So if you are very angry, you're saying, why is this happening? Sometimes someone tries to rationalize, saying, don't get so angry because I think you are wrong in ABC, and your anger is increased further. But if someone just embraces you and says, okay, it'll go away, you know you quieten down. So that sweetness of bhakti is like that. It doesn't try to rationalize, it just quietens you down, and hence it is indescribable but also cooling. Susitalatai. So jala sukruta sali hita hoi. Now he's doing that mapping between the heart of Shiva and between our own hearts. So he goes to the next block now. He's saying so jala sukruta sali hita hoi, Rama bhagata jana jivana soi. Now sali is a seed. So the seed is Sukruta. So all the punya that you have got so far, we saw that it is sadhan sadhya ekata. So you need punya so that you can have the love of Ram. The love of Ram will give you punya, which will give you more love of Ram. So it is not a transactional loving, it is loving for loving's sake. You don't want the love of Ram so that you'll get more health, wealth, looks, beauty, youth, whatever. The love of the katha is swadu swadu pade pade. With every word, with every letter, you want that rasa to flow. This is from the Bhagavad. In the very first chapter of the Bhagavad, it says that you relish the katha swadu swadu pade pade. With every lettering, with every ardhali, you have that relish coming out. That's how you enjoy the katha. So the seed is the sukrut, is the punya that we have collected. We always have that seed of punya in us, but you also have a physical seed that you sow in the ground. Now this water does the magic on the seed, Rama bhagata jana jivana soi. And this water of bhakti is like a life. Jivan in Sanskrit also means life. It also means water for the bhakta. So on the one hand, you've got the catchment area and the heart in which this water is being stored. On the other hand, you've got the earth on which the seed of your punya is being sowed, so that this water that is coming from the tapas of the sadhus falls on it. And then medha mahigata so jala pavana. So he's talking of irrigation over here now. One is the storage of the water. The second is that water is now irrigating. So mahi is the earth. So earth is medha, your receptive intellect, your brilliance, your ability to understand. It is not sumati, it is just your bare biological capacity to understand things. So medha mahi, the earth is medha, the seed is the sukrut, the water is the life for the bhakta, and medha mahigata sojala pavana sakili shravana maga chaleu suhavana. And when you have to build those farrows, so when you are plowing earth, you have to make these canals. So if you go to a traditional field, you will see the bulls turning around the water well, the water being canalized or put in these water channels, then that flow into the farms, which then nourish the seeds. So he's saying that our ear is like this water channels. So the seed that we have is the punya. The water is, of course, this Ram Bhakti that is going to fall. The earth is our intelligence. But how is this field going to be watered? It is through the canals or the channels of our ear. So the channels taking water to the field is our ears. So medha mahigata sojala pavana sakili shravana maga. Maga is mark. Shravan marks, Shravan ke chote chote, sakili is wo chota path. So Shravan ke chote chote mag is marga, chaleu suhavana, and it looks so beautiful. So when you see a field that is being irrigated, that is through these little channels that have been the tinkling of the bells in the bull's ear, or whatever, electrified water, but the water flowing through these channels is a beautiful sight. Similarly, the katha waters then flow through. We listen to the katha, it flows through our ear, it falls on the intellect of our mind. The punya seed that we have, it's not it's not a barren field. We have the seed of punya in our hearts, and that fructifies then into more love. So that's how the metaphor is building up. So channels taking water of the field is basically the channels of the ears taking in the waters of the katha. So ear channels taking in the waters of the Katha. Sakili Shravana Maga Chaleu Suhavan, Bhareu Sumanasa Suthala Thirana, Sukhada Sita Ruchi, Charu Chirana. And then whatever excess water that has already plowed, that has already flowed through these fields, then goes into a cavity on the other side. Excess water then has to be stored somewhere. So then that finally falls into my heart. Bhareu Sumanasa Suthala Thirana. Then water is finally stored in a collection pond, and that collection pond is my or the bhakta's heart. So Bhareu Sumanasa Suthala Thirana Sukhada Sita Ruchi Charu Chirana, and it is beautiful, it is cooling, it is Swadisht, Madhur hai, Charu hai, again excessively a delight to look at, and वो वहां पे स्थिर रहने वाला है. So basically what he's saying is शिवजी के हृदय में ये मानस बना, right? That's one storehouse, the eternal storehouse of the Katha. The other eternal storehouse of the Katha is my own heart as a bhakta. And if both of them carries the same waters, Shivji is also residing in my heart. Varnanam artha sanghanam rasanam chandasam api. The opening play. Bhavani Shankarau Vande Shraddha Vishwasa Rupino. They reside in my heart as Shraddha and Vishwas. Yabhyam vina na pashyanti siddha swantastham ishwaram. Without whom we cannot see the divinity residing in our heart. So that lake, that external lake, those waters are not outside us. They are within us. They are not even a reflection. It's the same water. So that Ram Katha that is residing in Shivji's heart, also through the sun of the tapas of the sadhus shining on the ocean of the Vedas and Puranas, sucked up and showering as the Katha waters enter my ears, they go through the fields of my buddhi and they finally then bloom the seed of bhakti and then end up residing in my heart. So the two kathas are essentially the same. So he's also talking of Brahmatma Aikya here. That and this is one and the same. There is no different katha residing in Shivji's heart and my heart. It's the same katha, provided you have the sumati. You're not going there with an arrogance of isme kya hai, but you are going with not a blind but a humble approach. You don't have to be blind. If you find a problematic spot, you have to reflect on it, you have to think on it, but with sumati. And then this katha starts opening up. Suthi sundara sambada bara birache buddhi bichari tehi ehi pavana subhagasara ghata manoharachari. So now he's saying that I have one little sarovar in my heart. I have the grand physical Man Sarovar, and then there is the heart of Shivji. All these three ponds, now he's combining into one and saying, wo physical Man Sarovar, which is Adhi Bhautik, Adhi Daivik, Shivji ka Man Sarovar, and Adhyatmik, what is within me. So these three lakes are now being combined into one, Adhi Bhautik, Adhi Daivik, and Adhyatmik. And now he's saying that those three lakes all have Suthi Sundara Sambad, Bara Birache Buddhi Bichari. Using my intellect, says Goswamiji, I have designed 4 dialogues. What are those 4 dialogues? Yajnavalkya and Bharadwaj, Shivji and Parvatiji, Goswamiji to us, and Kak Bhusundi to Garuda. We saw that. These are the 4 samvads. Birache Buddhi Bichari, Tei Ehi Pavana Subhagasara, Ghata Manoharachari. So there are 4 ghats that have been constructed on this lake to make access easy to them. And these 4 ghats are the 4 dialogues. So you have then the unison of the 3 lakes of Mansaro, of which is the Bhautik or physical. You have Shivji's heart, which is the Daivik, and you have your own internal heart, which is the Adhyatmik. And a unison of these 3 is that lake. Unison of the 3 lakes, then there are ghats to enter the lakes. It's a square lake, so 4 ghats, which are the 4 dialogues. What are the? Yajnavalkya to Bharadwaj, Shivji to Parvati ji, Kāṇḍa to Garuda, and Goswami ji to us. These are the 4 dialogues. So this is how the metaphor is now building up. Okay, so Suthi Sundara Sambada Bara Birache Buddhi Bichari Tei Ehi Pavana Subhagasara Ghata Manohara Chari. Now, this is how the mapping is done. So just a quick revision of what we did. The catchment area, the lake, the ocean, clouds, rain, sweet water, cleanliness, sweetness, seed, water, earth, channels, storage of the water that has gone through the fields, unison of the 3 lakes, and then finally the ghats. Any questions on this?
This is a very clear journey.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Is this also like a Vedi? Like where a yagya is performed, where there are these 4 sort of falls, and then I mean, can that also be seen as a kind of a yagya? And can these descriptions, metaphors, can they, or maybe they happen later? I don't know, but could they be translated into something like that as well?
Yes, very much so. In fact, if you look at the Gita, it says that everything is, a yagya. So what you eat, what you drink, and everything is finally being consumed by the grand yajna and being dissolved into the one. So everything is a yagya. From that context, yes. But specifically to this, the 4 sides of a yagya, in fact, there are images that bring out that kind of similarity. I'll show those images right now. I think some other screen is being shared. Why are you not seeing the full? Are you seeing the full screen? No. Why is this happening? I want to show you the full screen. I'll show an image, Preeti, so that your question gets addressed. Okay, so we began with the topography. Now, before we go elsewhere, this one. So this looks exactly like a Yajna Kunda. If you have a Vedi, you normally have those 4 or 5 steps. Now this is another depiction of the Rāmacaritamānasa. Sar is a lake. So you can see that so yes, to answer your question and conclude, it can very much be looked upon as a Vedi. And all the chaupais and chans, everything is Shabda Yagya. It's an offering that is being done into the Vedi, etc. But going back to the metaphor of the Manas, you see that there are 4 ghats, which are the 4 dialogues. So the northern ghat, Uttar Disha, is the Kāṇḍa Bhusundi Garud Samvad. The Purva Disha is the Tulsi Sant Samvad. The Dakshin Disha is the Yajnavalkya Bharadwaj Samvad. And the Paschim Disha is, of course, the Shivji and Parvati Ji Samvad. So this lake, if we go back to this geography earlier, it's so inaccessible up north. You have to cross all these mountains. People just die because of landslides reaching the Mansarovar if they're going, by road, of course. And this lake has to be made accessible. So the lake within our hearts are open to love. They are open to compassion. But the roughness of worldly life, and the roughness of internal life, strife, Rajogun, Tamogun, Ahankar, Mada, Matsar, Dvesh, they have to be, these stone walls around the lake have to be chiseled out. And the chiseling creates these 4 ghats, which then opens up the waters of compassion and love in our heart. So these 4 ghats and the chiseling of them are these 4 samvads that Goswami ji is talking about over here. Okay, so these are the 4 ghats that we saw in the Dohā. And with this, we conclude the Dohā Chaupai block number 35. Now, Preeti, before we move ahead to the next block, you had asked me about the tradition. The katha that we are doing and the tradition that we are following, how does it map, and do we have a mapping that goes back to Goswamiji? I think you had asked that last time, or the one before that, and I said I'll try and see if I can get something around that this time. So I've tried to put that together. Let's look at this. So Bhagwan Shankar, as we saw even now, the story began with Shivji's heart, and then he reflected it in Goswamiji's heart. But you can see that Narhari Anandji was Goswamiji's mantra guru. So Goswami ji's mantra guru was Haryanand ji, and then you have Tulsidas ji. So Shivji, the mantra guru, Narhari Anand ji, and then from not Hari Anand ji, Narhari Anand ji, and then from him to Goswami ji. Now the lineage that we fall into is coming up to number 12, Devi Palak Tiwari ji. So I have said this many times before, and I'm repeating it again, that our only claim to authenticity is lack of originality. So we follow nothing that we are saying here has not been said before. Anything new that I'm saying here is a mistake or is a reinterpretation of what has already been said. So Tulsidas ji then had these two traditions of Kishori Dutt ji, which ended with not ended with it led to another tradition with Shivlal ji Pathak. Then the other was Shri Budhe Ramdas ji, Ramdeen ji Jyotishi, Dhani Ram ji, Mandas ji, and he left his sharir in Kashi in Samvat 1905. Now you have to add 57. You have to subtract 57 from the Samvat to reach the date of AD or the Common Era. So around 1848, Mandas ji left his body. He trained Pandit Ram Gulam Dwivedi ji. Pandit Ram Gulam Dwivedi ji's tradition again split into two. You have this one that goes on even now, Vartman hai, Kashinath ji, etc. and his tradition. There was another tradition, Lala Chakkan Lal ji, Pandit Ram Kumar ji. And Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi, that I keep referring to again and again, learned directly from Pandit Ram Kumar ji, and he also learned directly from Devi Palak Tiwari ji. So Devi Palak Tiwari ji himself was a student of Pandit Ram Kumar ji, and Vijayanand Tripathi learned from both Pandit Ram Kumar ji and Pandit Devi Palak Tiwari ji. And then I follow the tradition of Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi, graced by, of course, my own guru, which is Pandit, not Pandit, Swami Akhandanand Saraswati. And Akhandanand Saraswati wrote an Ashirvachan or a blessing for the Vijayanand Tripathi's Manastika. So they all then fall into place, and then this is the path. So this is the continuity of the tradition. Preeti, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It's so wonderful to see it, to be honest, that there's been so much study and so much bhakti, so much gyan when vairagya which has gone into creating this. And it's sort of so reassuring as well that, this has never died. It might have been invisible for some time, but it's just, it's never died, and the depth of it has never died. It's not just superficial stuff. There have been people who kept it alive with such deep understanding and so much of Guru's grace and all that. It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So now, if you do if you just reverse engineer this, it's been around 300 years since Goswami ji died. Now, these are about 11 to 12, layers. So up to Pandit Devi Palak ji is 12. If you take Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi, it is 13. Akhandanand Saraswati Vijayanand Tripathi, and then we are number 14. Now, if you say that one tradition is typically 20 to 25 years, 14 twos are 28 to 80 years. That maps exactly to the years since the death of Goswami. So that way also this matches. Wow. 300 years since his death, we are at number 14. 25 years is a generation. 280 to 323, 25 years. So that's how this goes.
Amazing.
So I thought I'll just bring it up since you had specifically asked this last time. Now, of course, an obvious question is there is no reference to Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi ji here. So on what basis do I say that he learned from Pandit Ram Kumar ji and Pandit Devi Palak ji? So he has on these 8 chaupais that we are unfolding now, just on these 8 chaupais, Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi has written a 250-pager book called Bhava Prakashika. The enlightening of the bhava of the meaning of these 8 chaupai and dohas. Because according to Vijayanand Tripathi ji, if you have the vision that these 8 doha chaupai sets give you of looking at the manas, you're set. Then you know how to. So read the manas. So in the traditional pathshalas or in the traditional way of learning the manas, वहाँ पे मानस पढ़ाया नहीं जाता, वहाँ पे मानस लगाया जाता है. So the word uses manas lagana. Now, what is manas lagana? To link all these things to see, okay, यहाँ पे ये कहाँ है, वहाँ पे वो कहाँ है, ये contradiction है, वो contradiction की उलझ ये है, सुलझन ये है. that is manas lagana. So ye manas lagane ki
apply, employ, apply. Is that what
employ, apply, unfold, understand, and do an exegesis of it. It's not just read it. And every tradition does it slightly differently. So this tradition, Shivlalji's tradition will do it differently. Vandan Pathakji's will do it differently. This one does it differently. 19-20 का ही फर्क है, लेकिन है. There is a difference in.
That's what I wanted to ask you also, because they're clearly shakha, prashakha.
Yeah.
And so there must be some differentiation in the methodologies, interpretations, and so on.
And also the way the katha is done. So we follow the Ayodhya tradition in which we read it serially. We don't do the prasang katha. So this tradition would then, some would do prasang, some would do characters, some would just do the Sundarkand or just these 8 chaupais, etc. So various forms develop, but the messaging doesn't change. It's the same. It's just the outward form that changes, and of course some interpretatory differences. So now in this book which Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi has written on these 8 chaupais, he's written a 250-page book on just on these 8 Doha chaupais, which is what the Manas is. He says, and I quote, Shri Pujya Pitrucharan, which is his own father, Manas Marmadnya Pandit Ram Kumar ji, Pandit Dev Palat ji, तथा पंडित अयोध्याधर दुबे जी उपनाम पाठ पंडित के चरण कमलों को मैं सादर प्रणाम करता हूं, जिनसे मुझे मानस दर्शन के लिए प्रकाश प्राप्त हुआ. So he openly acknowledges that he studied with Pandit Ram Kumar ji and Pandit Devi Palat ji. मैं not Devi Palat, Dev Palat जी. मैं ऐसे समय में अपने मित्र इस समय के अद्वितीय रामायणी पंडित श्री भूषण जी को नहीं भूल सकता, which is his contemporary कथाकार, जिनके सत्संग से मुझे बहुत कुछ लाभ हुआ है. So that's another कथाकार that he refers to. And using all this material, another very good Manas scholar, which is Professor Philip Ludgendorff, has put up this mapping in his book, The Life of a Text, which he's written on the Manas. So this diagram is in Philip Ludgendorff's book. I would highly recommend it. He's a very perceptive scholar on particularly the Rāmacaritamānasa and amongst many other things. Here you clearly see that he's put Vijayanand Tripathi under Ram Kumar ji, but Vijayanand Tripathi himself says that he studied with Devi Palat ji. So if you take this mapping, we are at number 13. If you put him below Devi Palat ji, then we are at number 14. And then of course he has his own students, Narayan Khan, Sant Chote ji, Srinath Mishra, Ram Narayan Shukla, Ramji Pandey, etc., and so on and so forth. So this is where the katha. So we belong below this group over here.
And your personal guru would be?
So Swami Akhandanand Saraswati has blessed Pandit Vijayanand Tripathi's work, but he comes from an Advaiti tradition. So this is the blessing. So this is the blessing of Akhandanand Saraswati to Vijayanand Tripathi's work, in which he says that this is a great commentary, etc., and he has blessed it. So, but his Akhandanand Saraswati's tradition is Udiya Baba and is the Shankar Advait Parampara. But they merge kind of with this Tika, because as I said, he has blessed Vijayanand Tripathi's Tika over here. I mean, it's all background info. It's not much in context to what we are doing, but it addresses fully the question you had asked last time, right? So, any other things on that? If not, then we'll move on with the next Doha Chaupai block. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is the life of the text by Krishna's mercy, like organization?
Your audio is not too clear, Aparna.
The life of the text. It's coming up on Amazon as published by Krishna's Mercy. I didn't see the author's name.
Krishna's Mercy?
Yeah.
No. Just search Philip Ludgendorff, Life of a Text.
Okay.
That was his PhD thesis published by the University of California. And it's a classic if you want to do a secondary literature study of how the Manas tradition goes. So, I would very, very strongly recommend that. It's a great book. So, okay. So, we finished Doha Chaupai set 36, the first block of this 8 block mapping of what the Manas is. So, let's move on now. सप्त प्रबंध सुभग सोपाना ज्ञान नयन निरखत मन माना रघुपति महिमा अगुण अबाधा बरनब सोई बर बारी अगाधा राम सीय जस सलिल सुधासम उपमा बीच बिलास मनोरम पुरैन सघन चारु चौपाई जुगुति मंजुमणि सीप सुहाई छंद सोरठा सुंदर दोहा सोई बहुरंग कमल कुल सोहा अर्थ अनूप सुभाव सुभासा सोई पराग मकरंद सुबासा सुकृत पुंज मंजुल अली माला ज्ञान विराग विचार मराला धुनि अवरेब कबित गुण जाति मीन मनोहर ते बहु भांति अर्थ धर्म कामादिक चारी कहब ज्ञान विज्ञान विचारी नवरस जप तप जोग विरागा ते सब जलचर चारु तड़ागा सुकृति साधु नाम गुण गाना ते विचित्र जल बिहग समाना संत सभा चहु दिसि अवराए श्रद्धा ऋतु बसंत समगाए भगति निरूपण विविध विधाना क्षमा दया दम लता बिताना समजम नियम फूल फल ज्ञाना हरिपद रतिरस वेद बखाना और कथा अनेक प्रसंगा ते सुख पिक बहुबरन बिहंगा पुलक बाटिका बाग बन सुख सुबिहंग बिहारू माली सुमन स्नेह जल सिंचत लोचन चारू. Okay, so Sapta Prabandha Subhaga Sopana. Now, Sopan is a ladder or a step. I mean, either way, going up is a sopan, going down is a ladder. But Sopan basically means the steps on the ghat. So we saw that the lake has 4 ghats in the form of these 4 dialogues. Now, the lake also has to have steps. Ghat bandhe aur steps hi nahi hai to kya fayda? So there are 7 steps on each ghat to reach this lake. Those 7 steps are the 7 Kāṇḍas of the Manas. So Bāla Kāṇḍa, Ayodhya Kāṇḍa, Aranya Kāṇḍa, Kishkindha Kāṇḍa, Sundara Kāṇḍa, Lanka Kāṇḍa, and finally the Uttar Kāṇḍa. So these 7 steps you have to reach the inner depths of the lake. So Sapta Prabandha Subhaga Sopana Jnana Nayana Nirakhata Manamana. So these 7 steps are the 7 Kāṇḍas of the Manas that I'm writing, says Goswamiji. And you have to take in the beauty of this lake by looking at it, by having non-blind faith. That's the distinction between superstition and, faith that has some thought behind it. So he's saying that the eyes of Gyan, you have to have eyes that are opened with knowledge and understanding, that take in these 4 ghats with their 7 steps, which is to say, read the Manas or hear the Manas, and that will provide you access to those deep waters. Of what? Raghupati Mahima Aguna Abadha. So we saw that the water itself was the Sagun Leela, but Raghupati Mahima Aguna Abadha Barana Basoi Bara Bari Agadha. Now, the Agun form of Ram, we saw that Ram is Sagun and Nirgun and beyond, and neither. So the Agun form of Ram is fathomless, and that is this fathomless depth of this water. So the water you can have chullu bhar, drink it, spray it on you, and it can cleanse you. But how much is the depth of that water? No one knows, because that's the Agun form. The Sagun form is the water itself, but the Agun form is this fathomless depth of the Mansarovar. So he's saying that Sagun and Nirgun both are accessible in this lake. The Nirgun in the form of the depth or the infinite depth, and the Sagun in the form of water itself as the Leela. So Raghupati Mahima Aguna Abadha Baranaba Soi Bara Bari Agadha. Rāmacaritamānasa Jasa Salila Sudhasama Upama Bichi Bilasa Manorama. So the success, the glory of Ramji and Sita ji is what gives this power its nectar like or ambrosia like potency. So हमारा नॉर्मल पानी जो पीने का है वो हमें जीवन देता है, it keeps us alive. But what keeps our hearts alive is the ambrosia of this lake, which is turned into ambrosia. The waters of this lake are turned into ambrosia by Ramasiya Jasa, by the glories of Ramji and Sitaji. Salila Sudhasama, the water becomes like ambrosia. Upama Bichi Bilasa Manorama. And then he has given one metaphor after the other. So this is like a mirror looking at itself, with an infinite imagery. So within the Manas, Goswamiji is talking of what the Manas is. And within that, he's saying that I have given one metaphor after another. And we are in a metaphor itself right now. So it is like that infinite mirror, reflecting upon itself. Upama Bichi Bilasa Manorama. Bichi is like a tarang, the waves. So if you go to a pond and there is no movement, you'll say कि ये stale पानी है, मजा नहीं है इसमें. It's not fresh water, but if there are these beautiful waves moving, suddenly life springs into that lake and you feel nice. कोई हवा चल रही तो तुषार भी आता है, you feel freshened up. So he's saying that this Manas lake also has waves moving around it. And what are those waves? Upama. All the upamas that I give, all the rupakas that I give, all the metaphors, similes that I give on these ambrosia-like waters of the glory of Ram and Sita are like the waves in that lake. So Upama Bichi Vilasa Manorama, or Vichi Vilas is Tarango ka Vilas. Why are Tarangas there on the lake? For their own joy. There is no reason to it. I mean, of course, there's wind blowing and all that, we can break it down. But from an outside perspective, it is Akaran Karuna Varunalaya. It is a lake of compassion for no reason. So अगर water ही lake of compassion for no reason है तो तरंग का कारण क्यों खोजे? बस आनंद के लिए ही तरंग है. And that आनंद, he says, is my upama. So तुलसीदास जी का कारण क्या है? स्वांतस सुखाय तुलसी रघुनाथ गाथा भाषा निबंध मति मंजुलम आतनोति. He's saying, why did I create this tarang in the first place? For my own joy. Because the katha itself is for its own sake. My upamas also are for my own joy, which he refers to right in the beginning. Swantas Sukhaya Tulasi Raghunath Gatha Bhasha Nibandha Mati Manjulam Atanoti. I stretch the story as and where I liked it for my own joy and pleasure. So Upama Bichi Bilasa Manorama. Puraina Saghana Charu Chaupai. Now in this lake, if it is organic, if it has life, there has to be some water bodies, no, not water bodies, there has to be some sign of life and vegetation. So of course you have the leaves of the lotus flowers. So this lake is not just clean waters, it has tarang on it. The waters are clean, but it also grows lotuses. And the leaves of the lotuses, Purain is basically lotus leaves. Puraina Saghana, एक दो कमल खिले हुए हैं ऐसी बात नहीं है, सघन है. It is dense with these leaves of the lotuses. Charu chaupai, because the Manas is dense with chaupais. Doha बीच बीच में आता है, सोरठा बीच बीच में आता है, छन तो बहुत ही कभी कभी आता है, लेकिन चौपाई हर जगह है पुरैन की तरह. So on this lake, my metaphors are the tarang. The chaupais that are right are like the leaves of the lotus. So Puraina Saghana Charu Chaupai, they are beautiful. Because why are they beautiful? Because they are not on any Tom, Dick and Harry lake. They are on the lake which is ambrosia-like because it is glorified by the story of Ram and Sita, and it is their grace that make these beautiful. So Puraina Saghana Charu Chaupai जुगुति मंजु मनी सीप सुहाई. अब वेजिटेशन हो गया, इसमें लाइफ भी तो कुछ होना चाहिए. सो द लाइफ इज बेसिकली ऑल द शेल्स दैट यू फाइंड इन द लेक. सीप. So if you open a shell, it might have a moti in it. An oyster might have a moti in it. So he says that I have employed some kind of poetic tricks over here. And now these poetic tricks are basically the shells that will create the oyster through this water that is falling in your mind when you get that wow feeling, when you appreciate my own poetic tricks, tropes, elements that he's using. So Juguti is yukti, trick. So Juguti manju mani sipa suhai. So these shells that are the oysters or these crustacean forms of vegetation or living beings that are there in the lake, they are just lying around like that. But because it is the lake of the waters of the glory of Ram and Sita, they are going to shower pearls. And what are those pearls? It is my poetic tricks and tropes that I'm using that are going to give the bhaktas a wow feeling. So Puraina Saghana Charu Chaupai, Juguti Manjumani, Sipa Suhai, Chanda Sorataha Sundara Doha, Soi Bahuranga Kamala Kulasoha. So I have not only embellished my poetry with the chaupais, which is like these Saghan Purains all over the place, but बीच बीच में कहीं पे छंद है, कहीं पे सोरठा है, कहीं पे दोहा है, और वो सब तीनों बहुत सुंदर है. सोई बहुरंग कमल कुल सोहा, and they are like a collection of multicolored lotuses. So छंद का एक कमल है, सोरठे का एक कमल है, दोहे का एक कमल है, और ये हर एक कमल अनेक रंग के हैं, बहुरंगी है, और उनका कुल है. So there is a collection of lotuses, of dohas, of sorthas, of chands, which are of multiple colors and multiple varieties. अर्थ अनूप सुभाव सुभासा सोई पराग मकरंद सुबासा. अब वेजिटेशन हो गया, लोटस हो गया. अब लोटस के अंदर कुछ तो सुवास चाहिए. मालिनी कणवाही हावारा, you know, there's a beautiful Marathi song saying the wind is carrying the pollen of the lotuses and my mind is getting agitated by it. Malini kana vahi havara. So aratha anupa subhava subhasa soi paraga makaranda subasa. Parag is the pollen grain of the lotus and makarand is the nectar of the lotus. Subas is the smell. अब ये तीनों क्या है? तो लेक में पुरैन है, कमल में पराग है, पराग के नीचे मकरंद है और सुगंध है. So the pollen grains, the nectar and the beautiful smell or the scent of the lotus is what? Arath. So the arath is the parag. Now if a lotus has bloomed open, you see those little yellow dots. Now if you have ahankar in your mind, you will get pollen allergy. But if you, and then you will write Catherine Mayo's Mother India, Gutter Inspector's report. But if that ahankar is killed, you will have no pollen allergy and you will get the nice scent of the lotus coming out. I mean, please don't understand me wrong. Pollen allergies are genuine. I'm talking of the adhyatmic pollen allergy. So, soi paraga makaranda subasa. So that parag is the arath. Now, when a lotus blooms, you see those yellow dots on it. तो अर्थ सबको गम्य है, लेकिन उसके लिए बुद्धि चाहिए. If your mind is not able to grasp all the densities of my poetry, आप दूर से कमल देखो. जब आप सप्त सोपान से नीचे जाओगे और कमल नजदीकी से देखोगे तो आपको पराग कण भी दिखाई देंगे, which is the अर्थ. अनूप सुभाव सुभासा. And my bhasha, the beauty of my language, will go out far and wide, says Goswamiji. So even if you don't understand what I'm saying, you might be far off from the lake, you will get the sugandh. So the sugandh, ये सुबास जो है वो सुभासा है. कितनी सुंदर चौपाइया है. हरि अनंत हरि कथा अनंता, गिरा रथ जल बीची सम कहियत भिन्न न भिन्न, गिरा नयन नयन बिनुवानी. You know, so many things are there that are beautiful. You don't need to know the manas, you don't need to know anything about the philosophical depths of it, but चौपाई हर एक के मुंह पे है. You know, anywhere you go in the Gangetic plain of North India or in the Dohā, कोई ना कोई चौपाई हर एक के मुंह पे है. That is the sugandh that has spread far and wide. You don't need the intellect, you don't need the bhakti, लेकिन वो सुगंध पहुंचेगा ही पहुंचेगा. You can't hide that. You can hide it from sight, but you can't hide it from mind. So in English we say out of sight is out of mind, लेकिन यहाँ पे उल्टा व्यवहार है. साइट से तो छुपा सकते हो, लेकिन सुगंध को कैसे छुपा सकते हो? वो तो दूर दूर तक फैली हुई है. So he's saying that the beautiful chaupais that I'm having is like the sugandh, which will reach out far and wide, even if you don't get the arath, which is like the parag. लेकिन वो मकरंद जो है, that is the hidden secret. That nectar is not even visible to the eye. आप कमल खोल लो, you know, you start taking out every petal, you pluck the stamen, you take out, makarand दिखता ही नहीं है. You have to have a special faculty to suck that out, and that is the भाव. तो आप चौपाई दूर से सुनिए, वो सुगंध है. आप नजदीक जाके आप इसको बुद्धिगम्य कीजिए, वो पराग है. लेकिन बुद्धि के परे जाके आप उसको भाव से, एक ह्यूमिलिटी से गोचर होवे, तो आपको वो मकरंद मिलेगा. और वो मकरंद क्या है? सुकृत पुंज मंजुल अलिमाला. So if you have got the collection of punya, sukrita, manjula, and if your mind is humble, and if you are lightweight, you're not heavy with arrogance of your intellect, beauty, power, wealth. If you are lightweight, then you will be like a line of bees. Jnana Biraga Bichara Marala. And these bees, these line of bees are going to get that makarant. So the scent is going to go to one and all. The arath is going to go to the intellect. But the bhav will come to you if you are a lightweight, if you have got a collection of punya, which is having listened to the katha for more katha, then your mind will be like a string of bees. Ali is a bee, Ali Mala, which will then suck into that nectar. It is not available to one and all. It is only for the Rasik Bhakta that the nectar is there, but other aspects of the lake are available to everyone. So the inside, the inner depths of that nectar, सुकृत पुंज मंजुल अली माला जग अगर है आपके मन की, तो आपको ये मकरंद मिलेगा, सुबास हर जगह मिलेगा, और बुद्धि गम्य वो पराग है ही है, आंखों से दिखाई देगा. ज्ञान विराग विचार मराला. Marala is a swan. He's bringing in now new life forms there. So it's not just crustaceans, but also birds. And if you have seen a swan, just glide across a lake, what a beautiful sight it is. So he's saying that in the Manas, the great sadhus, saints, bhaktas, storytellers, story listeners, readers, if they are approaching it with a clean mind, they are like these swans. And what are these swans representing? They are representing Gyan and Vairagya. So if you see many of the ashrams in India, even the Ramakrishna Mission has the swan as its logo, because the swan is considered to Nirakshira Vivek, it is considered to have that discretion or discrimination to separate chaff from grain, or to separate water from milk. So that sense of discretion, that intellect, that quietening of the mind, which lets you see things that you otherwise can't see, are like these swans that are moving quietly on these clean waters of the Manas. So Jnana Biraga Bichara Marala, Dhuni Avareba Kabita Guna Jati, Meena Manohara Te Bahubhati. So I have done Dhwani. So Dhwani, so in poetics, Dhwani is you get a sense of it even though that is not being said directly. Avareb is Vakrokti. So, you have something said, but it's Lakshartha and Vyangartha. There are three layers of meaning to it. And you say something, but you mean something else. So in Marathi, again, there's a saying, Leki bole sune lage. You taunt your daughter, but the taunt is actually for your daughter-in-law. So like that, you say something, but it means something else. That is another poetic trope. Dhwani is you say something and there's another implied meaning to it. So Dhuni Avareba Kabita Gunajati. I have employed all possible forms of poetic tropes that are dancing here and there across the Manas. Meena Manohara Te Bahubhati. They are like the various kinds of fish that get in and get out of the water. So, fish, they jump out and jump in. If you look at a pond, you don't even know what are all the fish or the varieties of fish that are staying in the pond. Sometimes you just see a fish just popping out. He's saying that my poetic tropes are like that. Not all of them are visible. You have to patiently wait and fish through the rod of your mind in these waters to be able to catch those fish and not consume them, look at them and then drop them back again. So he's saying that these poetic tropes of all kinds are like the fish jumping around in the waters of the Manas, not visible at any single given point in time. So some trope might be visible at one point, another at another point. You have to sit at the lake quietly. So fishing is the best of pastimes, they say. You just sit, you do nothing effectively, but you're still doing so much. So you have to fish in the waters of the Manas to be able to catch these fish of poetic tropes. So Meena Manohara Te Bahubhati, of all kinds. Now he's saying Aratha Dharma Kamadi Kachari. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the four Purusharthas. Kahaba Jnana Vigyana Bichari. And then there are great Jnanis. There are great Vigyanis. So Jnanis is wise, Vigyanis is the intellectual, Vicharis is the thought leaders. Navarasa Japatapa Joga Biraga. They are Vairagis, they are Jogis, they are Tapasis, and they are the 9 rasas, Bibhatsa, Shrungar, Shok. there are 9 rasas. Sometimes a shant rasa is added on top of that. So there is this 4 purusharthas, gyan, virag, navaras, te sab jalachara charu tadaga. And he's saying that it not just has crustaceans, swans, and fish, but there are so many other beings that you can't see that I'm not going to name them. Te sab jalachara they are just water beings. They are beings that reside in water. There are all kinds of other beings that I don't have time or the patience to enumerate, because they are the 4 purusharthas: artha, dharma, kama, moksha. Kahava gyan. There's knowledge, there's wisdom, there's intellect, there's scholarship. There are 9 rasas. There's tapas, there's yoga, there's vairagya. All these qualities that reside are like the various water beings, jalachar, charu tadaga. And why are they beautiful? Why are they charu? Not one of them is a bad guna. Now the navaras, you might say, bibhatras mein saundarya kya hai? See, bibhatsa is required for you to understand what is beautiful. If you have Raudra, if you have Bibhatsa, we are all Jivas. We are all, as I keep saying, let's not have false ideas about who we are. We are all Jivas, so we have this in us. But we put them to use to float in these waters. So our swimming aid to float in the lake of the Manas is the Navaras, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, Tapas, Jog, Vairagya, scholarship, wisdom, darshan. All these have to act for us to be able to float in these waters. So this is what he's saying, that there are so many that I have stopped enumerating them and calling them names. He's just talked of the crustacean oyster, the swan, the lotuses, and now he's saying, and many other beings in the form of the 4 purusharthas, 9 rasas, gyan, vigyan, jap, tap, etc. Sukruti sadhu nama gunagana te vichitra jala bihaga samana. Now he moves on to higher realms. So these lower realms are when you are still caught up in your egos, emotions, but still you have the mental compass is pointing in the right direction. You want to go there, but you're still trapped. Then he's saying there are great sadhus also in this lake who sing the glories of Ram. The beautiful bird calls are around this Manas lake. So always remember that it's operating at 2 layers. He's describing a physical geography and he's mapping it to a map of the Manas, of the Rāmacaritamānasa, and the Mansarovar is the physical mapping. So he's saying that the Mansarovar, this bhautik lake, and the Daivik lake and the Adhyatmik lake, these 3 lakes we are talking of, remember? So the bhautik lake, the physical lake, has beautiful birds, and these birds give very delightful bird calls. The cooing of the cuckoo, such beautiful bird calls are there. They are like the punya of the sadhus that reside there. But because they are elevated beings, they are not these jalachars in the waters, but they are like birds flying above. So these great sadhus, emancipated beings who are residing there just to listen to the glory of the name and reflect it back through their echo through the bird call, te vichitra jala bihaga samana. So the birds that reside around the Manas are like the sadhus calling out the names of Ram. So, one sadhu singing Ram, 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 another telling the katha, another listening to a katha. All this collection of sadhus is like, and the beautiful noise, kalarava, that noise that they make is, or the beautiful sound that they make, not noise. It's not cacophony, it's a symphony. The beautiful bird calls that they make are like the birds humming around the lake. Santa sabha chahu disi amarai, shraddha ritu basanta samagai. And now, this collection of sadhus that are there. So there are, individual sadhus which are like the birds, but a sadhu would normally go to a place where there is already an ashram built, where he can stay, tell his katha, etc. So Sant Sabha hai. Sabha mane baithne ki jagah bhi, aur sabha mane the collection of sadhus also. Chahudisi avarai. So on the 4 sides of this lake, by whichever ghat you go, there is a dense forest. Just imagine a lake that is open and barren. The approach land is barren. You would not feel like going there. But if it has fruit-bearing trees, nice shade, cool breeze, you would want to go and see aage kya hai. Aage to pura saaf dikh raha hai. Let me go and check what there is. Maybe there's a water body. So he's saying that the lake is surrounded by trees on all 4 sides, and these trees are mango trees. Remember that in the Bhagavad, it talks of the rasa. It talks of a seedless mango. dripping out, oozing fruit. So this lake is surrounded on all four sides by a mango grove, and that is like the Santa Sabha, Shraddha Ritu Basanta Samagai. And if the season is of Basant, so we say that Vasant, the Madhumas, is the prime mass. The fruits are coming up. Beautiful scents is moving in the air. There are blossoms everywhere. So both fruit and flowering is happening at the same time on various species of trees. The weather is not too hot, not too cold. So Vasant Rutu is the first amongst equals of the ritus. What Goswami ji is saying over here is Shraddha Ritu Basanta Samagai. And Shraddha, these sadhus are like the amrai. So the collection of sadhus are like the mango trees. They have faith. Their faith is like the Vasant Ritu. And what happens in the Vasant Ritu? Bird calls start coming. So when they start singing, their bird calls are like the birds singing on the lake in the Vasant Ritu. What a beautiful metaphor. I mean, he just goes on and on and on, with this little lake. So Sant Sabha Chahu Disi Avarai, Shraddha Ritu Basanta Samagai. Bhagati Nirupana Bibhida Bidhana Chama Daya Dama Lata Bitana. So then what is happening? What is this symphony all about? Are they talking of कामकाज? Are they saying कल मुझे यहाँ पे जाना है, बैंक में ये एफडी करवानी है, यहाँ पे ये गाड़ी बेच, ये शेयर बेच के ये लेना है, आज मार्केट अप है, डाउन है, बच्चे का एडमिशन? Are they talking about that over there? Are they talking of कामकाज or रामकाज? So that what they are chit-chatting over there is bhakti. भक्ति का निरूपण, विविध विधाना, अनेक प्रकार से वहां पे भक्ति का निरूपण हो रहा है. They are talking of क्षमा, of forgiveness, of daya, of karuna, of compassion, dhamma, of controlling yourself. So dhamma is always to be applied on yourself, and kshama and daya is on the other. In Ram's world, in the real world, it's always the opposite. We want others to shower their compassion and daya on us, but we are very harsh with others. So dam अपने आप के लिए है, क्षमा और दया दूसरों के लिए है. And these, the exegesis of bhakti, how to do bhakti, what are the ways of doing bhakti, compassion, love, dam, controlling your mind, controlling yourself, all these are like the creepers growing on these trees. So this amrai is allowing creepers to grow on it. And what are these creepers? These creepers are very delicate. You have to nurture the soil well. It can't be too bright. It can't be too dry. It can't be too red. It can't be too black. Everything has to form in place for a delicate lata, for a delicate creeper to grow. And that creeper is kshama, daya, dhamma, bhakti. And that is also growing around this lake. Samajama niyama phula phala jnana haripada rati rasa veda bakhana. And then he talks of the yamas, samajama niyama. So yama and niyama is basically it's directly from the Yoga Sutra, ahimsa satya asteya brahmacharya and aparigraha. And the niyamas are shaucha santosh, that's where my name comes from, tapas vadhyaya and ishvara pranidhanata. So these yamas and niyamas are coming directly from the Yoga Sutras. So samajama niyama phula phala jnana. So this type of yama, niyama are the flowers and the fruit of this amrai. Haripada rati rasa veda bakhana. And uska nichod kya hai? What? So you have now everything is optimal. Time is optimal, Basant Rutu hai. Desh is optimal, Mansarovar hai. Desh Kal, Vastu is optimal, Sadhu Samaj hai. Desh Kal and Vastu sub optimal hai. Iska nichod kya hai? The ras coming out from these mangoes of the amrai is what? Haripada Rati. So you go there and you can see this if you have Haripada Rati. What is the end result of it? Are you going to get name, fame, wealth, youth? No, it is Haripada Rati. There is a sadhana and sadhya ekata again and again and again. So the end result of this is what? Haripada Rati rasa veda bakhana. Vedon ne bataya hai, Upanishadon ne bataya hai, Puranon ne bataya hai. The end result of it all is Haripada Rati, which is the fruit dripping of the mangoes in this Vasant Rutu. So it is said that if a parrot puts his beak or its beak on a mango, it is the sweetest mango in the lot. So the parrot, so Shuka, Bhagavata is told by Shuka Muni. Shuka also means a parrot. He has pecked on that fruit, and then that rasa dripping out is Haripada Bhakti. And this is what Goswamiji is saying, that the Haripada Rati is the rasa dripping from that fruit in this amrai, where the birds of the sadhus are cooing, chanting Ram Nam. The waters is the ambrosia of the glories of Sita and Ram. The oyster is my tricks, poetic tropes. The swan is Gyan Vairagya. The leaves of the lotus are the chaupai. The Chan Sorta Dohas are the multicolored groupings of lotuses, and so on and so forth. Aurau katha anek prasanga tei sukapik bahu barana bihanga. Now he's saying that इसमें कुछ कुछ और कथा भी है, बस रामायण की कथा नहीं है. I will be talking of Shivji's marriage, says Goswami ji later. अब ये और कुछ कथाएं भी है इसमें जोड़ी गई. वो क्या है? अनेक प्रसंग. There are many other episodes also that I will bring into the katha. Tei sukha pika. They are like the cuckoo and the parrot. Bahu barana bihanga. Multi. So I want to add variety. What is that? Variety is the essence of life, or what is that saying? There's some saying that says variety is the spice of life. Yeah. So he's bringing in variety into this katha. It is not monotonous. There are all rasas. There's Shrungar, there's Bibhatsa in the Lanka Kand, when he talks of the heads that are flying out as flowers blooming in the sky. There's a Raudra Varnan. All kinds of descriptions are there. I'm adding this variety so that your mind is cultivated to finally get into that Haripada Rati. So this Sukapika, these different variety of birds are the other kathas that I'm going to bring in the story, says Goswami ji. Pulaka Batika Bagabana Sukha Subihanga Biharu Mali Sumana Saneha Jala Sichata Lochana Charu. So he's saying that there'll be horripilations. Your hair will stand on end when I start describing the prasangas. So he's talking futuristically, but our hair has stood on end by all these metaphors already. How can one man think of this? Metaphor after metaphor. Everything that he began right from the word go, Varnanam, Artha Sanghanam, the Nam Vandana, Rakar and Makar, the beauty that he's created out of it. He's saying that your hair will stand on end. And what are these? These are like the Vatikas, the little. So you need to husband the earth, otherwise it will grow wild. You need to cut down weeds. You need to plant new crops. You need to, bury channels for water to flow. You need to have a mali to take care of it. So he's saying that you have to, there's animal husbandry, there's land husbandry. You have to husband the land. And that all these channels that are being built are nothing but the horripilations that you get. When your hair stands on end, it is like a cat channel being dug. So you have ears, the katha is flowing through your ears. You have these little body hairs on your hand, legs, face, eyebrows. When they start standing on end, those are the channels that are opening for the katha to enter also through these pores in the body. So the ears are not enough. You think, oh my God, I have only 2 ears. I need more katha and I need more receptacles to get that katha. He says, don't worry. When your hair stands on end, they will act as receptacles for the katha to flow in through the hair follicles of your body. So Pulaka Patika Bagabana Sukhasubihanga Biharu. And you will get a certain joy when you listen to this katha. And it is like this carefree bird that just floats on that heat current in the air. He doesn't even have to flutter his wings. So if you start enjoying the katha, your mind will be light. It will let go of the heaviness of its arrogance. And on this heat current of the katha, it will start just floating around over the lake. So your hair will stand on end and it will take in katha through its pores. Your mind will be light and it will start floating around like a bird that doesn't have to flap its wings. Mali sumana saneha jala sinchata lochana charu. And your heart will open up to love, so much so that sometimes your eyes will well with tears. That is nothing but the water irrigation for the flowers that are going to bloom on this path. This is where he ends the next Doha Chaupai block. We have just 5 minutes, so we can't go into the next one. I've also not documented the Excel. What I'll do is I'll do that on my own and bring it up for the next session for a reference. So we documented the first block. Now I'll document the metaphors of this block and then keep it ready for the next class or the next satsang. Any questions so far? Is what I'm saying clear? I think because he's giving very dense rupakas, and you have to pade swadu swadu pade pade. You have to relish every letter, every word, every phrasing, every turn of phrase. Only then the beauty comes out. Yeah. Any questions?
This almost reads like a prologue.
Yeah.
As if he's written it all, and now he's sort of building expectations, and kind of guardrails and advice as to how to read it. It's interesting. So I wonder if that's what happened chronologically.
I mean, हम तो भाव विश्व की दुनिया में हैं, लेकिन if you want to approach it through scholarship, it is normally assumed that the Balkand was written in the end.
In the end.
So he began with the Ayodhya. He went on, and then that samam bonum, that tying the lace around the gift, that wrapping of the Balkand was done in the end. I mean, of course, he had ideas around the Balkand being penned, but then see, the real story begins at Doha number 300 or 290 or so, with the birth of Ram. Till then, everything is just around the Katha. So all that work was probably done in the end. The Balkand, I mean, it's not prakshipta in the sense that someone else, it is very much Goswamiji's own thing, but he wrote it after the main work was done. Any other question?
Yeah, Santosh, about the, sorry. The 7 steps. It's the Kāṇḍa, you said, the Ramayana itself also has 7, right?
Yes.
So maybe was he trying to basically, he chose 7 because of that, or?
Yeah, I mean, the Valmiki Ramayana has 7 and Goswamiji also has 7. The Yuddha Kāṇḍa in Valmiki Ramayana is called the Lanka Kāṇḍa in Rāmacaritamānasa, but all other Kāṇḍas have the same name: Bāla, Ayodhya, Aranya, Kishkindha, Sundar, and Uttar.
Okay, but the metaphor of the going to the ghat and all, I mean, all that is only here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is not there. This entire metaphor that we are building up is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana.
You said the life of a text as opposed
to the life of a text by Philip Ludendorff. Yeah. Radhika, you were asking something? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask this Mali in that line. Is it referring to a gardener, or what is the Mali name?
Mali is a gardener. Yeah.
Okay, it does the same as in Hindi. Okay.
Yeah. So this love that we have, that opens out and nurtures the garden in the forms of tears that well up in our eyes, will be that Mali that will keep this bhakti soil wet for the seeds to be nourished. That's how he puts it there. It's just an amazing metaphor. He just goes on and on and on, and sometimes even we lose track of what's going on, which is why I decided to document it so that we can keep going back to it. Okay, for the last couple of minutes, I'd like to show you a few other things. So we talked of the 4 ghats, right? Just a quick summary of that. So Purva, Dakshin, Paschim, Uttar are the 4 ghats. There's Samay, Desh, Vakta, Shrota, and Bhasha. So the Purva Ghat is the dialogue between Goswamiji and his own mind, Svanta Sukhaya, but he also wrote it, so it's thankfully accessible to us. So Sujan, us. The Bhasha is Prakrit or Avadhi, and he himself has said that he wrote it in Ayodhya and Naumi ko wo prakashit hua, so Ram Naumi. The Dakshin Ghat, the Samay is Phalgun, which is the last month of the year, shortly before Chaitra. It was in Prayagraj, and it is Yajnavalkya and Bharadwaj. Now, why Phalgun? Why Phalgun? Because that's the Magh Mela. So there's a Mela that happens on the cusp of that month and the earlier one, which is why it is in the Phalgun month. And it is in Sanskrit because it is being discussed amongst rishis. Now, Sanskrit is also Deva Vani. It is the language of the gods. So obviously, Uma and Shivji ka Samvad will also be in Sanskrit. The Desh is Kailas around the Man Sarovar, this very Manas that we are talking of. It has no time. It is, God's word. So, kya time, kya ye? And it is the Paschim Ghat. The Uttar Ghat is again not having any time because it is in the mortal world. Aaj hum subah kar rahe, kal sham ko karenge, kabhi bhi ho sakti hai. It is between Bhusundi and Garud, so the animal world. They also don't have any time. It is on the Nilgiri mountain. This reference comes in the Uttarakhand when Bhusundi told this katha to Garudaji, and it is in Pakshi Bhasha, the language of the birds. So there is no restriction of language. Forget not allowing local languages to talk about things said in Sanskrit. He demolishes that old thought completely, and he says Prakrut to chodo, ye Pakshi Bhasha mein bhi available hai. So when birds sing to each other, it is so. There is a beautiful verse in the Bhagavat which says that when Krishna plays his flute, the dark-skinned deer, they also, their ears stand on end and they are awestruck by that music. So the language of God has no restriction of Sanskrit or Prakrit. It is accessible to animals, birds, bees, beings, everyone in one and the same go. That was one. These images I have got. What I've also done is because this is printed like this, I have rotated them. But we will discuss this next time. These are 4 rotations of the image, and then going back to your question, Aparna, just give me 1 minute. I know we are running out of time. There's a chapaya which I'll recite, that the 4 ghats are there, the 7 steps are there, but these 7 steps are taken to be the 7 puris. So, Bāla Kāṇḍa hai avadha avadha mathura man bhavan haradwar aranya kashika kishkindhavan kanchi sundara lasata lanka ujjaina suhavan Uttara Dvaravati Puri Sato Mana Bhavana. So if you do the yatra of these 7 puris, the chances of mukti are higher. Now we do the yatra of the 7 puris sitting on our seat and traveling through the inward eye in the geography of our mind. And what are the 7 puris over there? Bal Kand is Ayodhya. This is tricky. Now, Ayodhya Kand is Mathura. so the first Kand, Bal Kand, is Ayodhya. The second Kand, Ayodhya Kand, is Mathura. The third Kand, Aranya Kand, is Haradwar. The fourth Kand, Kishkindha Kand, is Kashi. The Sundar Kand is like shining Kanchi. The Lanka Kand, Shivji ki Nagari, Ujjain. And the Uttar Kand is Dwarka. And through these 7 Kands, you do a trip, you're on a mental trip, but of a different kind, of a spiritual kind. You go on that trip of these 7 cities and ultimately reach your moksha. So that's how this whole thing is very densely constructed. We'll stop here and continue with the metaphor next time. As I said, it's 8 Doha Chaupai blocks. Okay, let's just do our concluding prayer and stop. यत्र यत्र रघुनाथ कीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारी परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम्. All right.
Thank you. It was really quite